Wizards Postgame Live.
All right, Sunday action in Boston. Of course, a bitter rivalry between these two teams, a lot of connections. And Boston seemed to connect with Rim a lot tonight. Final score was 130-121. At one point, you saw the second unit, third unit guys getting a lot of action tonight. Whether it's Devon Dotson, of course, Jordan Goodwin getting involved in the action. Everybody all hands on deck. But it's hard to overcome the 36-point performance from Jaylen Brown in the absence of Jason Tatum. Welcome into Post-Game Live. Wes Hall here with Christy Winter-Scott. We'll be joined by Chris and Drew here momentarily, along with Megan McPeak. We're going to hear from head coach Wes Unseld Jr. a little bit later on, and a great film room session with Christy. Speaking of Christy, let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to ask this in a different way.
Okay.
Because we know the final score. Wizards lost by 9, so that's cool.
Understood.
I need to know what you saw that went wrong that they can now improve on, and give me the solution to it, if you don't mind.
I would say definitely what I liked about Washington's game tonight was the fight and the energy down the stretch. They didn't quit. They kept fighting. The bench players came in, and it didn't fall off the rails. They came in and gave great effort, and that's what you need. In a game like this, it's a time for growth. And like Chris Miller said, it's not garbage time. This is an opportunity for you to improve. This is an opportunity for you to gain traction with your experience and expertise on the floor in your skill set. So it wasn't a loss in that regard.
Right.
But when you're talking about full-on effort, I mean, this Washington Wizards team is missing Kyle Kuzma, who in the last 9 games was averaging 24 points per contest. So yes, they are missing a huge piece of the puzzle when it came to offensive production. But Washington dug in there. They held Boston scoreless for almost 5 minutes during that fourth quarter. So there was a lot of energy. Monte Morris was phenomenal tonight. He didn't have any turnovers, 8 assists to go along with 16 points, 6 of 8 from the floor, 4 of 5 from 3. So they were trying to get some momentum going. They put some starters back in there, Bradley Beal, etc., towards the end, but just didn't have enough to get over the hump. But again, Kyle Kuzma wasn't in the game with the sore back. So 24 points per game through the last 9. They just missed another offensive player. And
I'll mention Rui also being a part of that too, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
What I want to ask you about is the scoring, because you look at the first quarter, Boston had that one 35-26, and then they went up in each quarter 35, 37, 41. The Wizards went up 26, 29, 33. Flat line there in the fourth quarter because the game was kind of a little bit out of reach for the Wizards. How do they, using prevention as a cure is better than a cure as a mantra, how do they prevent leads like this happening where you're down 17 at the half and then have to climb out of that cave?
Don't have a player like Jaylen Brown on the opposing squad. I mean, he's phenomenal, right? I mean, that was his 11th consecutive game scoring 20 or more points, second best in the NBA in that stat, by the way. But he was just a terror when it came to taking advantage of mismatches, getting downhill in transition, and scoring at the rim with contact. He was so tough for Washington to contain tonight with his 36 points.
Special night for him. I want to bring in Chris and Drew and get their thoughts on this as well. I mean, 36 points is nothing to sniff at. Again, in the absence of Jason Tatum, and again for the Wizards in the absence of Kyle Kuzma. It's just that weird time of the year when, you know, you're fortunate if you have an entire full roster, but just to catch people up, we're 10-10 on the season right now. This is the 20-game checkpoint that people have been curious about. So now here we are, and there's going to be, you know, a conversation about exactly where we stand right now. Again, with Chris and Drew joining us here momentarily. Here we get ready to go, guys. All right, cool.
We're here.
All right.
Are we ready to go?
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to start with you, Drew, with the same question, and we'll go to Chris that I asked Christy. What do you see that went wrong that the Wizards can improve on, and how do they fix it for tomorrow night?
Well, I think Christy was spot on when you talk about that fourth quarter. If I'm Coach West, I'm showing just that fourth quarter tomorrow in film and say, how did we get back in this game? What were the things that we did well? What did we do better than we did in that first half or in that third quarter? Definitely got to shine some light on that. But I want to talk about the three-point shooting. Once again, that was one of my clues to victory tonight. You have to, bottom line in this league right now, you have to make three-point shots. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The Wizards made 37 field goals, but those were twos. The other 7 field goals they made were threes. There was only 7 of them that gave you 21 points. Versus the Celtics making only 28 twos and 16 three-pointers. That's the game right there. You can talk about all the defensive assignments you want to, but if you're not making threes and allowing your opponents to make threes and take threes, it's going to be a long night no matter what the defensive assignment is or what your output of effort is.
I'll go with the defensive effort then, guys, because if you look at it quarter by quarter, don't look at the fourth because the game was already decided. But you gave up 35 in the first, 37 in the second, and then it got worse in the third quarter where you gave up 41. The Wizards are now 0-7 when they're allowing 113 or more points per game. The defense has been something when we talk about assessing the first quarter of the season. The defense has been pretty good. But you just can't give the opportunities. I was asking Drew during the broadcast. I said, Drew, you got to give up one thing. They're hitting threes, and they're getting paint points. You've got to stop one of them. This is a championship caliber team who was shorthanded tonight, and guys leveled up. Here's one positive for Washington. Gafford, Dotson, and Gill, all three of them were a plus 13. So they showed some fight. The question is, can you carry that over tomorrow against Minnesota? They're a unique team. They got 2 7-footers, so I'm curious to see how the Wizards deploy their bigs tomorrow.
Well, you have to rebound the ball. You can't do what you did tonight and allow Boston Celtics. They had 8 offensive rebounds in that first half. Watch Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert attack the glass. I mean, you're going to have your hands full.
Christy, remember in pregame I asked you about identity and who this team was, and what did you say that they were focused on?
Defense and consistency with their defensive effort. And I just think knowing, with what you said, Drew, knowing that Boston came into this game shooting 41% or making 41% from three. I mean, they shot 47% for the game today, but 41% of their offense comes from the three-point line.
No, it's a significant chunk of your offense.
We know that, right? So coming in, the balance of the game that they played tonight, getting downhill, getting in transition, Washington 4th best in the league in terms of denying teams in transition with just 11 points on average. I think they really didn't do a good job there in defensive transition and allowed Boston to get in the open court and allowed for them to get easy offense that way.
Drew, you mentioned something that kind of had my mouth. Well, actually, Chris, both of y'all did. My mouth kind of watering a little bit and no, it's not Thanksgiving leftovers. I'm thinking about tomorrow night against...
drink you some water, man. Come on.
No, man. Macaroni and cheese is so much better the day after, as we all know.
It really is.
But the day after this game is Minnesota, and you guys were just talking about the fact that they have 2 extremely unique Rudy Gobert and Big Cat. So I am curious about tomorrow night, how we employ our 2 big guys, because Gafford didn't get in until, what was the 8-minute mark in the 4th?
Well, maybe this is a game you want to deploy that big lineup to see what happens, and probably going to 2-3 to kind of junk up the spacing issues that the Minnesota Timberwolves have dealt with this entire season. I mean, we heard the reports about Anthony Edwards not having room to operate because of the spacing issues. But tomorrow, I mean, whether you go big, whether you go small, you're going to have to come and play defense. You're going to have to show effort. You're going to have to make shots. And I think that's been key to a lot of these losses and victories, the inability to not make three-point shots and get stops at the right time.
Guys.
What he said.
He ready to go.
This is
already.
I already know. For those watching pregame tonight, you will know why he's doing that right now. Thank you for watching all night with us, guys. I appreciate you. Chris and Drew will see you tomorrow night in D.C. Christy,
yes,
back to this game. There was something that you and I were talking about as we were watching the game.
Right.
And I'll be rather candid. It was not just about shots. It wasn't just about shot selection.
Right.
It's about shot timing.
The timing and the rhythm of your offense, that's paramount when it comes to shot selection.
Yes.
It has a lot to do with your rhythm, and it has a lot to do with when and where shots are being taken. And I think for Washington, they've done a good job throughout their 20 games now this season of really creating great spacing. When they have great spacing, regardless whether the shot goes in or not, you got to take good shots. You have to really make yourself available for those opportunities. And I think Monte Morris did a good job with that. I know Denny made some good reads off of him. But you have to move and relocate, get yourself into viable striking areas on the offensive end. And that's when things come alive for you in terms of that offensive rhythm that you so desire. And for Washington, they've done a good job with their assist numbers this year. But I think when you have some, I guess, some muddied offensive possessions where we're trying to figure out the rhyme and the reason of the spacing and the dribble penetration and when that's happening and why that's happening. There were a couple of possessions there where Washington just came up empty or looked disjointed off the ball. Because a lot of it, okay, the point guard has the basketball or whoever has it, who's the initiator, But the other players, there has to be some off-ball movement. And I think when they had that, there were good opportunities to be had. And when they didn't have that, not so much.
I got one for you. And Wizards fans, if you've been keeping up tonight, you'll see this one stat that just has me bewildered. And I can't believe that I didn't mention it before. So please don't be mad at me.
Talk to me.
Let's play a little quick trivia game.
Okay.
You're talking offense. I'm switching it up. I'm giving you a cheat code already. We're going to talk defense.
Okay.
How many blocks did the Wizards have tonight?
Oh, boy. I know they came
Don't look.
in.
Don't look.
I'm not looking. I know they came into the season, into this game this season, 4th in the league, with 6 blocks on average coming into this game. I don't remember a block tonight. And was it 0?
Rather close.
1.
Close. Look at you.
Done.
Bob, tell her what she's won.
What do I get?
1 block tonight. Who do you think it came from?
I would say Jordan Goodwin. And
Wow. I'm not even like,
yeah.
I ain't even mad at that. Yeah, one block tonight from Jordan Goodwin. And the reason is, now mind you, Boston had 5 tonight, but it stands out because when you've got a 7'3" center, you got Daniel Gafford that's basically a 7', he's 6'10", but he's 7-footer as well.
Right.
I'm like, where was the ability to create block shot opportunities when you see Boston scoring 52 points in the paints in the point?
Right.
Paints in the point, points in the paint. It's Sunday, don't judge me.
It sure enough is.
But seriously, 1 block, that's obviously something that they've got to improve on for tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's the aggression. You know, at the half, there was only 1 turnover by Washington, and Megan McPeak had the information for us at halftime there that said, hey, we would like to have more than just 1 turnover. That would show our force and our aggression on the offensive end, and they just didn't really have that on the defensive end. Since you flipped the script, I don't think the aggression was there on the defensive end either to give some resistance at the rim, to get some rim protection, to disallow touches of their 10 toes in the paint with the basketball, and the follow-up shots. And Drew Gooden said that, like the second chance opportunities, those are paint points. The downhill drives in the fast break opportunities that they had, those are paint points as well. So they have to do a better job to shore that up tomorrow. At least it's tomorrow, and they can flip the page quickly.
They're at home.
They're back at home.
Okay, because look at this 3-game road trip that we've had. Obviously, you see the record is 0-3, but just take a look at the stats. The points per game at 111, opponent's points per game 118. I round things up. Field goal percentage at 48. 3-point shooting at 27%. I want to bring in Megan McPeak as well to get her opinion on this because she's been through this journey with us all. You know, that's part of the package deal. How you doing, Megan? Same question to you that I asked everyone else. What do you see that the Wizards can improve on from tonight, and how do they fix it for tomorrow against Minnesota?
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record like everybody else, but you go up against Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns and potentially Anthony Edwards with the fact that he wants to see more spacing so that he has room to operate. You have no choice but to protect the paint. You cannot allow those 3 to just live in the paint all night long like we saw tonight from not just a Malcolm Brogdon, we saw it from the entire Celtics unit. So now you add in those 3 guys who love to live in the paint. You cannot allow them to have their way in the paint. And I would love to see an early Daniel Gafford. And in my opinion, I think we see an early Taj Gibson sighting as well, too. And I mentioned it to you guys in the pregame that we could potentially see it because of the aggression he brings and that mentality that he's a no holds bar type of guy. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him early again tomorrow, knowing what Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns bring to this Minnesota team.
Megan, we've taken on a Miami Heat team that's had a lot of people in and out of their lineup. The same thing with Charlotte, OKC. I can go on and on and on. But tonight was a test against the #1 team in the entire league. What was the big billboard lesson that Washington learned tonight from the court?
That you have to be ready from tip-off. And that was something that we had talked about with Coach Wes Unseld Jr. I asked him before the game about, having a strong start. Knowing the fact that, 1, you don't have to go against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You only have to deal with Jaylen Brown. Mind you, the others on this roster for the Celtics are not too shabby, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're just a bunch of guys from Lifetime Fitness or something like that. They're professional athletes. But the other thing, too, is you have to have that hot start. You've got to set set the tone early so that you don't have to then deal with that uphill battle that I had mentioned during that third quarter, because the second and third quarter, for whatever reason it is about this Wizards team, that seems to be the two quarters where they struggle the most. And it puts them in a position where the fourth quarter, they're expending all of this energy and an uphill battle, and sometimes they do not have enough gas left in the tank. And I think that's what we saw tonight. They made that push in that fourth quarter, as you heard Chris and Drew talking about it. They got it close, and then for whatever reason, they just ran out of gas.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Boston only scored 17 points in that fourth quarter.
Right.
Like we pretty much, like we always said, it was almost a foregone conclusion, unfortunately. Megan, don't move too far, because on the other side, we're talking about the first 20 games of the season. And we're going to hear from head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium. So a lot to be discussed, a lot of lessons to be learned. Not only are we going to do that, Christy, I'm going to give you a peek behind the curtain at my thought process about the future. And not only the first 20 games, but the next 5 games.
Oh, snap.
Welcome back to Wizards Post-Game Live. Final score 130-121. But in the fourth quarter, you saw the second/third unit guys get in there. A couple two-way guys. Devon getting some action. Of course, Taj Gibson as well. Held the Celtics to 17 points in the fourth quarter, as we mentioned earlier. Now, this was a bit of a dogfight. There was an opportunity for them to be able to come back in this game, Christy.
Right. I mean, you have to love the fight, and you have to love the competitive fire and the joy that they played the game with, regardless of the score. It's not who you play, it's how you play.
Tell 'em, Coach.
I always say that. Fight for what you want. And if you don't get what you want this game, then carry it over to the next one.
Yes.
You have to have good energy.
Okay.
You have to have that fight and love for the game.
For the
or
love
else
of the game.
why are you playing? For the love of the game.
So here
That's what I'm
goes.
saying.
The first 20. We talked about this in pregame about
Right.
who they were. And now now that we're on the backside of this first 20
Okay.
officially, what do we know about this Wizards team now that we've got 20 games under our belt?
Well, we know that they have heart.
Okay.
We know that they have heart. We know that they understand one another, or they're getting to understand one another a little bit better. And whether that be consistency in terms of the chemistry on the defensive end or on the offensive side, they're still meshing and coming together. They've had pieces in and out of the lineup, so it's going to take a little more time. Yes, we wanted it to be a sample size, 20 games. What do they look like today? Well, let's give them more time to have that continuity with one another on the court before we're the judge
Can I
and
be
jury.
cynical? Can I play cynical Wizards
No,
fan right
no,
now?
you
I want to
can't.
play cynical, mad at the house.
Yeah,
How
sitting
did
on the
we
couch,
lose
hot.
this game? How did we lose the last 3 games?
saw your
Cynical
tweets.
Wizards fan.
Saw your tweets.
Right. Trust me, we watch Twitter. So I'm gonna play this role right now. Let me see
Yeah.
if I can get in character.
Uh-oh.
How much more time we gonna give them, Chrissy? How much more time? You said 20. They said 20. We waited 20. Now we're past 20, and you want more time? How much more time do we need? All right. I should be nominated for an
30,
Emmy for that one.
30 games. How about that? 10 more.
10
fellas.
more?
Ladies and gentlemen.
10 more. Hold on. Let me look at my calendar.
Hashtag that out.
Let me get. No. Keep talking.
Let's go.
I'm looking
Oh,
at the
okay, yeah.
calendar.
I'm
trying to. You said 10. I'm trying to get to
How many
10.
more?
I want to know what game 10 is. Ooh, I'll tell you what game 10 is.
Oh,
you
what
ready
is
for
it?
game 10?
What is
10
it?
games away from now. It's December 17th.
Okay, it's my mom's birthday.
We're
Hey,
on the
Mommy.
road. It's a West Coast road trip. We are at the Los Angeles Clippers.
What?
Yeah, so you're giving 10.
I'm giving 10.
You're saying the next 10. Well, then let's look at the next 5 of that.
Okay.
Minnesota's tomorrow. Then we're at Brooklyn. You
Right.
remember last time we saw
I do.
Okay, I just want to ask questions.
They were here in DC.
Then we're at Charlotte. That's been...
They were here a minute ago, too.
And then we come back home on December 4th for a game that I know everybody's going to be
La
in
La
Capital
Land.
One Arena for, against the Lakers.
Yeah.
LeBron, Russ, whoever's on the team, whoever's active and playing that night, that's going to be a big game.
Yeah.
And then at Chicago again. So at the next
Right.
5, we've already seen Brooklyn, already seen Charlotte, already seen Chicago.
Right.
If we're going to give you a 10-game room of reassessment,
Let's do that.
what do we have to do in these next 5 to stay above 500? We're 10-10 in the first 20.
Well, starting tomorrow with Minnesota, they have to come correct. Like Megan McPeak said, start the game strong, finish stronger, no gaps in the intensity in the second and third quarters. But when you're talking about this Minnesota team, Edwards and Towns combined for 47 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists in their loss against Golden State. They allow Golden State to shoot 58% from the floor, though. So take advantage of that. Clearly, there are opportunities to be in attack mode on the offensive end. Don't play safe. Play tough. Attack the basket. Finish in the paint.
Aggressive.
With contact. Stay aggressive, but also get that good off-ball movement. penetrate to the elbows, get those kickouts for wide open looks, great opportunities to score. But then you have Gobert inside. He had 10 boards today.
Rudy.
You've got to put a body on someone. And in that first quarter, it was tough for Washington because they gave up second and third opportunities tonight in Boston.
Indeed it was. Let's bring back in Megan McPeak. Megan, I asked Christy, and I will ask you the same question. What do we know about this Wizards team now that we've gotten this first 20 games under our belt?
You know, it's hard to really fathom, but in my opinion, they're resilient. They did not give up tonight, and they could have easily just given up when they went down 20-plus points in this game, especially when you think of the fact that happened in the first half. But we have seen on a nightly basis from this team, whether it is the second unit, whether it is the starters, whether it is a mix of both of that, they are resilient. They continue to fight. And I think that says a lot about the character of guys that you have on this roster and that you have in the locker room, along with the coaching staff in that locker room. They are trying to figure out how to play within the combinations of what they got. Because when you really think about it, we've not had a completely full 100% healthy roster at all this entire season. There has always been someone out of the lineup, whether it is, you know, due to health issues, whether it's due to injury, sickness, whatever it may be. They have not played an entire game with 100% of their roster. So we are still waiting to see that. But through the first 20 games, I would say that this team right now is showing that they are resilient and they are willing to not back down from anyone, no matter what the name is, across the front of the chest and the team that they are playing on a nightly basis.
Do not go gentle into that good night. That is the quote,
I like
resilience.
that.
Thank you, Megan McPeak. And besides, I can hear the music in the background. I feel like singing. I should really not have said that, but it doesn't matter. Thank you for your game tonight. We'll see you back home in D.C. tomorrow night against Minnesota. Right now, Wizards fans, let's go to head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium and get his thoughts after tonight's game.
They got going early, you know, and I think Brown got going. You know, a lot of those possessions early were transition, second chance points. Kind of the 50-50 plays, the hustle plays, it gave them, I think, a lot of life. You know, we knew going in it's going to be tough to keep pace with the number, the volume, you know, and the efficiency at which they shoot the three. Trying to minimize the easy ones. To their credit, they made some tough ones, but we have to find a way to make them miss. You know, I thought we allowed them to play with a level of comfort early in that first quarter, and I think that's when they got a little bit more confident.
Don't you assist the three-point defense?
Well, the second half was much better. You know, 11 obviously in the first half is tough. It's tough to overcome. But, you know, they were on pace for 22 and had only 5 in that second half. So much better job. I think some of it is the attention to detail. You know, being clean in our coverage. You know, in our switches, you can't switch down the floor with the way they shoot it. They got below us at times, which put us in scramble situations. They found the three. You know, the second chance points, you know, that I spoke of. All those areas, I think, are controllable. But, you know, in general, that second half was dramatically better.
Maybe with yourselves on offense, you guys were pretty efficient on the end of the floor. It was just tough to keep up with a team that's scoring 130.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we had spurts that were really good. And then there's some, you know, some times where we started to stagnate a little bit, you know, versus our switches, the cross match. You know, the whole emphasis was trying to find easier opportunities. To do that, you got to get stops. You know, when we are able to get stops, get out and run, then, you know, I think we're pretty good. When we have to play through a set defense, possession after possession, you know, that does bog you down at times. So there's some good stretches, and, you know, you score 121 points. And most nights you put yourself in a pretty good spot.
So moved in the locker room after a 3-game skid.
Nobody's happy. I don't think anyone's panicking, but of course we all, you know we could play better. Some guys are in a bit of a slump, and that's, you know, life in the NBA. You got to figure it out, aid in your own recovery, but, you know, we have to find ways to get guys back on track.
Out of the 3 guys, Kuz, Rudy, Johnny, does any of them come close to playing?
I think close. I think Kuz was close, but it was a level of discomfort that we weren't comfortable. He wasn't moving well enough, and so I think it was just prudent not to throw him out there.
Looked like Taj got back into the rotation a little bit more today. Thoughts behind that?
Well, he's been a guy we've used at times this year. Just level of energy and physicality at times. It changes the vibe. You know, I think he brings us a boost. As do those young guards. You know, Goodwin, Dotson, both of them played well. They injected some energy into that group, got us going a little bit defensively, made some plays. And, I think we were able to, whittle it down a little bit, make it a game. But to their credit, to the entire group, we could have easily just said, you know what, tonight's not our night, we play tomorrow. We stayed after it and tried to compete.
You said, nobody's happy with the 3 games, but it's also 2 pretty talented teams. Anything you guys take away from this stretch or learn about yourselves that you take moving forward?
Well, yeah, I think, it's easy to get disappointed. Things don't go your way. But, I think we've shown throughout, we've got some guys out, rotation guys are, I don't think once this year we've had our full team. And that's just, it is what it is, and other teams are going through it. But, we've shown some resilience, some grit. We've won some tough games where we've had to claw back and eke it out. So we understand, and there's going to be some games where you let a couple go. There's some games where you just get outplayed. But trying to minimize that, get back on track. But it can't be for the lack of effort or competitiveness. I think at times, quarter by quarter, you could argue it was. But I think in general tonight, we were able to show enough grit to stay in the game. Good? Thank you.
That's head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium. In pregame, we put a little pressure on Bradley Beal. A little bum, 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 bum. Pressure? Yeah, we're going to talk about Bradley Beal and our bold prediction recap on the other side of post-game live. Welcome back to Post-Game Live. The day after the Wizards score 115 or more points, you can get 50% off regular menu price pizzas at papajohns.com with the Wiz code WIZ50. I see you, Bradley Beal, all smiles. Hey, a little pizza in the belly, ain't nothing wrong with that. But you know what else we need to do right now, Christy? We need to take a look at our bold predictions brought to you by Greenberg and Betterman. Remember to go to gblawyers.com and feel better. Tonight's prediction was Bradley Beal scoring 24 or more. Hallelujah. It's a Sunday. He scored 30 tonight. I just wish it was in a dub.
Got you.
Again.
But I told you.
I know you were right. Again, this is Bold Predictions brought to you by our friends at Greenberg and Betterman. Go to gblawyers.com and feel better. Christy, so let's talk about Brad tonight, right?
Let's do that.
So we know he put up 30 tonight, and I'm thinking, all right, over the last 10 games, Brad's averaging 25 points, 5 assists, and 4 boards.
Right.
Now, here's where it gets fun. Because I'm devious and I like to look ahead. I'm looking at Minnesota tomorrow.
Right.
Last 4 games Brad has played against him, he's averaged 32.
I like it.
8 dimes.
I like that.
5 boards, last 4 games.
I like that. Go, Brad.
Are we trending in the right direction with Brad? The obvious answer is yes.
Yes.
What I'm waiting for is how do we put the piece of Brad together with KP together and Kuz and Rui. I'm not even going to mention DeLon because that's a different, unique situation. Right. But what does this pie look like at full strength, minus DeLon, because we know that he will be back and will surely be appreciated when he returns?
I think it's a viable pie. I know we just finished with Thanksgiving and everything, but I think with Bradley Beal, I mean, he's a 3-time All-Star for a reason, okay? Tonight, he was 11 of 19 from the floor for those 30 points, shot 58% for the game, but he was 0 for 3 from 3. And going back to what Drew Gooden said, we need to get those 3 balls of ball at a higher clip than 25%. And when you heard Wes Unseld Jr. talking about, okay, we scored over 120 points, usually that'll be enough to win games, but you have to maximize your game in terms of your full floor game on the offensive end. And he was phenomenal, getting downhill, the way that he does, making reads in one-on-one actions. But Bradley Beal got himself to the free throw line 9 times and made 8 of those. So he is really active. He's being aggressive. He's initiating. He's getting to his sweet spots on his own or coming off of screening action. So he just needs to stay aggressive. And you're asking me what he looks like with all the other pieces. Wes Unseld Jr. said we haven't really had everyone all together yet. So give them an opportunity to mesh and continue to grow together. But with Bradley Beal, keep on keeping on. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's leading this team. He's a vet. He understands the assignment. But he also has to represent for everybody else as well. Like, he has to stay consistent with his effort on both sides of the court. But he also has to have everyone else feel that they can be their best selves on the court as well and be a star in their role because he's a star in his.
You said 10 games? I've already been through this. December 17th, I got it circled on my little calendar.
Mom's birthday.
10 games. That's your mom's birthday?
That's my mom's birthday.
Oh, shut up, mom. What's that?
Hey,
All
hey,
right, sorry,
yeah,
gotta calm
here we
down.
go.
We have to
Bring
be
it back.
professionals.
Bring it
Our
back.
FanDuel recap, making every moment more. You can see Bradley Beal scoring 30 or more points. That was plus 260. A $10 bet would have won you $26. Fourth quarter point margin. Wizards plus 13 is plus 170.
Wow.
$10 bet would have won you $17. Christy, thinking about the fourth quarter today, we saw 17 points was what Boston scored. However, the Wizards did their job in fighting and clawing back, giving you plus 30 in the fourth.
did.
Now, they average around 27 points in the fourth as well. How do we put the fourth quarter thing in like the third a little bit more and sprinkle some of it in the second? Because they come up, everybody said it. We can give you one, we can give you four. But it's that second and or third quarter that become a problem. How do we get consistency across that board?
Well, that's the enigma, and that's why I said it in the pregame show, that consistency is the factor that Washington needs to maintain, and that's the challenge. I don't care what level of basketball you're playing, your challenge is to be consistent, and your challenge individually is to be consistent as well as the team. So when you have those lulls, someone's got to step up in those moments and say, hey, do you feel that? That's us losing momentum. We've got to get back to what was holding us steady, right? We can't fall underneath and go down 15 points, and that was the breaking point tonight against Boston. They fell down by 15, 16 points and couldn't get out of the mud until the fourth quarter. Then it's like, oh, snap, we're running out of time, and now our backs are against the wall. So human nature tells you, okay, my back's against the wall, what are you going to do? You're going to fight or flight? You've got to continue to fight all game long, and there can't be any lulls like, oh, we have time to get this back, because you actually don't. Every possession matters.
That fighting instinct, like you said, it gets triggered and animated. It's almost like you wish you could be like, hey, I know you've done this in practice, coach. Put the scoreboard at 10 down. We'll start 10 down before we get this going. Want to remind everybody, FanDuel is now live in Maryland. You can get $200 in free bets, guaranteed. When you place your first $5 bet, so you can download the FanDuel app and start making every moment more. Coming up, you're getting more of this show. Why? Because we're going to go inside the film room and take a closer look at Kristaps Porzingis. And oh, by the way, you're going to hear from him on the other side, so don't move. More postgame live in a moment. Christy, every coach's favorite place, the film room. Tonight, it's about KP with a mouse in the house. How's he deal with it?
Hey, a mouse in the house for Kristaps Porzingis. You see Monte Morris with the ball right here. You see Kristaps Porzingis shaping up inside on Marcus Smart. Look how much of a height advantage he has inside. Oh, Marcus Smart catches one to the chops, and he got an offensive foul there. Porzingis was whistled for that one. So what do? You self-correct yourself. Now he gets the ball right in the middle of the painted area. Look at all the defenders surrounding him in the triangle spot there, and he just flips it up, catch and shoot, easy money in the paint.
Sure.
And then right here, take a look, Bradley Beal, bounce pass, clears out opposite, and now Grant Williams is 6'6". Kristaps Porzingis 7'3" with a 7'9" wingspan. Just catch it and lift it and flick it. Easy for Kristaps Porzingis, 7 of 11 tonight for 21 points. He had 4 rebounds, but you know, when you have that height advantage, you have to continue to use it. And tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a different story with some big boys down in there on the block, but he's got a great skill set. He has fantastic reach with that 7'9" wingspan just to lift and flick over his opponent.
Yeah, a lot of people think he's going to be down in the paint defending the inside. Sometimes, you know, got to defend on the perimeter, which ironically is what he's talking about in the post-game locker room. Kristaps Porzingis on defending threes.
Definitely. I mean, the way they were shooting threes all game long, Brogdon, Hauser, all these guys. I mean, it was so hard to stop these guys, and you know, and they're playing that 5 out, you know, type of game, and then, you know, had also a couple closeouts on Horford, and you know, if they had a drive, also there was nobody in the lane to help, you know, so their offense is really working, and it was hard to stop them. So I mean, they're, I don't know what they top 5, top 1 in the league offensively, you know, one of the best offensive teams for a good reason.
When you play on a team like that, like you said, number 1 in the league, one of the top scoring teams in the league, is that also a chance to kind of learn a little bit about yourselves?
I don't know about ourselves. I mean, of course, you know, it's a challenge. You know, it's a challenge for us defensively, what we can do, and what we need to work on. They're the best for a reason, you know, offensively, and there's definitely some learning lessons for us. So yeah, it's a loss tonight, but we're looking forward to bouncing back.
What do you think about the operation on offense?
Us? Not bad, yeah. I think we took advantage of the mismatches. Brad did, I did myself. But they were kind of forcing us to do that a lot, you know, and that's credit to them. They made it uncomfortable for us, I would say, but, you know, offensively, we were okay. We were okay offensively. It was the defense that we just could not stop the way we would have liked.
And just one last one.
Yeah.
Wes said, you know, obviously nobody's happy with 3 straight losses, but at the same time, they come against 2 pretty good teams.
Nice.
Did you learn anything about yourselves over the last couple of days?
I think we learned that we are not last one. We learned that we are not good enough to not be on at all times. We have to be. You know, we're not at that level where we're going, okay, we can turn it up now and we can go. We're not there yet, so we have to be on for 48, especially against these high-level teams. Cool. Thank you very much, guys.
Kristaps Porzingis in the post-game locker rooms take a trip around the association for something that I think we can all marvel at and go, wait, what?
Wait.
Look at Zubac's line tonight. 36 minutes tonight versus the Pacers. 31 points, 29 rebounds.
That's work.
That's big work.
That's work.
Again, I don't mind you getting 29 boards in 36 minutes. Fine. You probably gave me 5 points. I don't mind you giving me 31 points in 36 minutes. You probably gave me 7 boards. He gave you 31 and 29.
Hey, 29
That's almost
boards,
a 30-30 double board night. But take a look at this also around the association. The Warriors taking on the Timberwolves and Minnesota, and you can see Andrew Wiggins just go up and get it. Cleaning the board right there.
Yeah, he's a toughie. I mean, this Golden State Warriors team is picking up pace. They have struggled on the road this season, but they didn't struggle at Minnesota today. I'll tell you that.
No,
they
not
put
at
up
all.
137 points, so they were getting some work done.
He's going to keep that one on elevation whenever you jump over somebody as tall as Rudy Gobert, but not to be outdone. AE with the handles back.
Come on, get it.
No, turn around. Work.
In your eye.
Spin. I think Wig might just still be spinning. Hold on. No, I'm over here. No, come back.
He's spinning. Bip.
You know what's funny about that? As I think about this more, watching these plays, Christy, knowing that we've got to deal with Minnesota tomorrow, what is more problematic or much of a more momentum builder for a team? When you get an oop like that and somebody just comes and takes the oop off, or when you see a guy put somebody in the spin cycle and hit a quick turnaround with nothing but net?
Ankle dropper. Put somebody on some ice skates and, you know, shift them, move them, and then make the shot. You got to make the shot. If you're shifting and pirouetting your defender, then you got to drop that shot down. So I think that's more impressive.
Just to your point about not making the shot go down. The shot doesn't go down. The highlight doesn't exist.
No.
Like when Boston, they had like perimeter ball movement tonight. It was beautiful basketball. Just the crazy part was, shot didn't count, so we don't see it.
Peanut butter, no jelly. Peanut butter, no jelly, no
There you go. But tomorrow night, we're back at 6:30. We're going to be here for Wizards Timberwolves, for Wizards pregame live. If you haven't noticed on the screen, we give you a little insight as to which uniform they're going to be wearing. Since we have so many options, that means I need to get my throwback situation ready, because so that way we are, you know, in pocket.
Situation room.
Yeah, I got a situation. They ain't ready for it. Look at that. Look at the cherry blossom jerseys for tonight. Look at that. Welcome back to Wizards Post-Game Live. Tonight's matchup was up in Boston. Wizards take a loss, 130 to 121 is the final score. Now the Wizards sit at the 8th seed in the East as we stand today, with the record now 10-10. Brad gave you 30-5. Kristaps Porzingis gave you 21-4. So, Minnesota in the house tomorrow night. Christy, this one's simple. We're coming out of Thanksgiving week, so this would be rather appropriate. Leftovers. Told you, one of my favorite things. What's one of the leftovers from today's game that you want to cake into tomorrow against Minnesota?
Competitive fire and mentality. You have to carry that part over. And what we saw in that fourth quarter, Wes, was just that. No quit in this team. And what Kristaps Porzingis said, we have to stay on. There's no light flicking off and on for this team. It has to be on for the entire game, however long that takes, however many overtimes it takes. The grindhouse has to be on. You've got to be ready to go.
Look, to me, it's all about intensity. From the whistle until the final buzzer. 10. Hey, Brad, see,
Hey.
the leftovers. Yeah, that's that rub my belly. I'm about to go
That was me
get some
yesterday.
macaroni and cheese because that is my favorite. On behalf of our great crew and staff here at NBC Sports Washington, in front and behind the camera, for Christy Winter-Scott, I'm Wes Hall. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. We will be back tomorrow night for Wizards T-Wolves. Until then, save your boy that mac and cheese.